Hi everyone, it's Lindsay Adreon. I'm back for Splitcoaststampers today, and I'm going to be sharing with you how you can layer digital stamps. For today's tutorial, I will be using Adobe Photoshop Elements. I'm using version 14. You're also going to need a PNG digital stamp. Your JPEGs will not work. You're going to need a printer. I'm using a laser printer, white cardstock, coloring medium of your choice. I'll be using alcohol markers, and supplies to finish off your card. I will be using the Thanks a Lot stamp set as well as black dye ink, both from Simon Says Stamp, moonshine sequins, adhesive, and also Daffodil Delight cardstock for my card base. Once you have Adobe Photoshop Elements open on your computer, the first thing you want to do is open up a new project. Click your File tab, hover over the word New, click Blank File, or you can hit Control-N and skip all those steps. You'll open up a new dialog box at this point. Go ahead and type in a name. This just makes it for easier saving later on. And then I have a custom preset already the size of an A2 card. You want to make your blank project size 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. You can also use the custom setting. Once you're happy with your project, go ahead and click the OK button, and that will open up your new blank project. Now you want to bring in your digital stamp. Go to your File tab again, click the word Place, scroll through your computer documents on the left, and find your digital stamp that you want to use. Once you've found it, make sure you choose the PNG version. A JPEG will not work, and click the word Place. So you might be asking, well, what if I don't have a PNG image? It's very easy to change a JPEG into a PNG, and I'm going to show you how. I first want to go to the Open tab and find the image that I want to change. I'll use this little coffee and donut bear digital stamp from Craft and Desert Divas. It's only a JPEG, so I'm just going to click on that and click the Open button, and that brings up my image. Now this is the regular size that it comes in. I haven't done any adjustments to that, and it has a white background. We need to get rid of all of that white background around the little bear and the coffee and the donut. The first thing I want to do is go on the right hand side to my Layers tab. There's this little lock button off to the right hand side. Click on that and get rid of it. Now once you've done that, this is going to allow for a transparent background. Now you want to go over to the left hand side and click on your magic wand tool. I like to use the magic wand instead of the lasso tool or the other wand tool. The magic wand tool does all the work for you. It does all the figuring out where the black line ends and where the white background starts. So all you need to do is go over to your image and start clicking on the white background that you want to remove. It's going to find that white space that you want to remove and get rid of it for you. It'll bring up these little dancing ants around the lines that it's going to remove. And then if you need to add or subtract from your selection, you can do that down in the tool options below. You can see my mouse scrolling over them now. So if I want to add in that little circle in the donut, you want to make sure you get in all the space that would be see-through. Once I have that, I'm going to zoom in to show you there's all these dancing lines around the image. Now, if by chance you have a really intricate digital stamp, you can zoom in as far as you need to make sure that you get all that white background included in your selection. Once you're happy with your selection, right-click anywhere on it and then click the Layer via Cut. That's going to separate your background layer from the actual stamp that you want to keep and the selection you want to keep. Go over to the right hand side on your Layers tab, find the layer you want to delete, right click and hit Delete Layer. Then click Yes when the Delete Layer option comes up, and there you have your stamp with a nice transparent background, so no more white space. Now go up to your File tab, click on it and click Save As. Go ahead and rename your image to something that you know that you'll be able to recognize very easily. And then right underneath that is the Save As type. You want to click on that and go down and find the PNG option. That way, whenever you save this, you're going to keep that transparent background. Once you've renamed it and you have the PNG option selected, go ahead and click Save. It will bring up this new dialog box. Go ahead and click OK. And there you have it. That is how easy it is to save your PNG image. And I'm just going to show you really quickly, whenever you click out of this, you don't want to save any of the changes to the JPEG. So whenever you close out of that, go ahead and click no for your saving. You've already saved it as a PNG in another location. So just make sure you don't save any of the changes permanently on your JPEG. So I'll show you really quickly. Now I can use this brand new PNG image as a PNG image. I'll go ahead and place it on just a panel that I opened very quickly here. Scale it down a little bit so I can fit two of the little bears on here and show you that now you can see through all of the space, and whenever you layer these up, then they're going to be right next to each other and look like little side-by-side bears, which is just awesome. So once I duplicate my layer, it pops up right on top of that other layer. So just make sure you remember that so you don't lose it. And then you can just click and move it around. The little bears are right next to each other now. You can see through the donut holes, which is awesome. And it's just a great way to really change your JPEGs into a PNG for this technique. So back to the main tutorial now. Go ahead and resize it, make it a little bit smaller so more images will fit on your panel. And I always like to drag and drop mine in a corner to start with. Once you're happy, click your green arrow. On the right hand side in your Layers tab, find your PNG layer and right click it. Go ahead and click Duplicate Layer. That will go ahead and rename it for you, and you can just click OK. Now use your arrow keys to go ahead and move your second layer. And you just want to move it up away from your layer that you already have placed, because it will place right over in the exact same spot as your first layer. So just make sure that you move this a little bit, and then you can use your arrows on the side, your little boxes, and rotate this a little bit, resize it, and just make sure that you have it look a little bit different than your first image. Also, on my stamp, I am needing to cut off portions of the stamp. I don't want the stems to show up at all. So I'm going to have to play around a little bit more with my stamp and make sure that those stems either are behind another layer or that they are cut off on my panels, that they're hanging off. I always like to fill up my corners first and then come back in and fill in the white space. So I went ahead and drag and drop this second layer into the right hand bottom corner. I click my green arrow once I was happy with it, and then I'm going to go back over to my Layers tab and duplicate that layer. Then I'll use my arrow keys again to move this and fill in that white space in between my first and second layer. As you can see, each time I duplicate a layer, it puts the duplicate on top of the layers that I've already created. I wanted my third layer behind my first two, so all I needed to do was go ahead and click on that in my Layers tab and drag it down beneath the two other layers. The closest the layer is to the background, the further behind the other layers it's going to be. So I drug that third layer below the first two to make sure that it was behind my other two layers. And then you just want to continue to duplicate layers, change the size, change the orientation, rotate them a bit so they don't look exactly the same as the layer before them. You can see I'm making some smaller, I'm making some larger. Some are rotated more to the right, some are rotated more to the left, and I'm bringing some all the way off the paper almost, so just a little portion of them are actually on the panel. The great thing about working with digital stamps is nothing is permanent until you print. So you can continue to play with the orders of your layers. You can also adjust sizes. You can rotate them a little bit more and just really continue to play until you're completely 100% satisfied with the way your panel looks. And then you can print. So just remember, nothing is permanent. You can always go back and change things. Now I'm going to continue to duplicate layers here and just resize them and rotate them until my entire panel is filled up with this digital stamp. The only thing that I left blank was the top right hand corner, and that is because I wanted to go ahead and stamp on a sentiment once I printed this out. If you want to, you could also add a sentiment with Photoshop Elements, and that you do with the text tool, which is in the bottom left-hand corner. It's that little T. You can just type on a sentiment and print it off whenever you print off your panel. And that's a very easy way to customize a sentiment for a card. You can see I am really building up a lot of layers here, so whenever I go in and I want to adjust a certain layer that I've already worked on, I just want to make sure that the right layer is selected on the right hand side, so I'm not altering any layer that I don't want to alter. Now at this point I have about 8 layers if you want to count the background layer. Now this is the last layer that I will put on my card panel, and once I'm happy with it, I just want to make some final adjustments. I'll click the green arrow, and then I want to go over to my background layer, right click it, and then I will click the flatten image word, and that's going to just combine this all into one layer. Then this makes it very simple to go up to your file tab and click print. I printed my panel off with a laser printer because I'll be using alcohol markers to color in my image. Make sure you use whatever kind of printer coordinates with your coloring medium of choice. I also trimmed out my panel to a little larger than an A2 size card base so I could tape it down to my hardboard just for a nice smooth coloring surface. Now coloring all these layers can get a little tricky. So the trick that I kind of did with this coloring is I used my lightest color first, colored in the entire flower in this case, and all of the different petals that went with just that one flower. Then I came back in and did my darker shading and then blended it out. Then I would move on to another flower. I only worked on one flower at a time so I could really separate and make sure that I had all the petals with that flower colored in with that certain color. And this made it a lot easier for me to decipher between the different flowers. Now I flipped my panel over and decided to keep my white space on the bottom right hand corner, but you could also completely fill in this panel with flowers or whatever digital stamp you choose to use for this technique, and that would be gorgeous as well and really create a nice vibrant background to use on your card. I wanted to keep that space empty because I'll be stamping on my sentiment. But that really is the beauty of this technique, is each time you go in, and I can use this same digital stamp over and over and over, but each time I create a panel like this, it's going to be a little bit different. So it really is a great way to get more uses out of your digital stamps and really make them look different each and every time you use them. Once I was finished with my last little flower here, coloring it in all with, again, that light color first and then coming back in and doing the shading, I came in with some greens and colored in all of my stems and leaves. Now the majority of my stems were hidden because I wanted to hide that portion of the bottom of the stems behind each and every layer, but there were still a few leaves that popped through, so I wanted to color those in. Now to make this background really pop and make that white really stand out, I went around each one of my little flowers and stems with a light gray marker first, then came back in with a darker gray, and then blended that back out with the lighter gray. And that just makes the entire scene really pop up off the cardstock and makes it look a little bit three-dimensional even though it is just one layer. And this same technique could be used with colored pencils, watercolor, any type of medium. You can always do just a little bit of shading around the outside of the image to really make that image pop up off your white cardstock and give it a little bit of definition. Now once I was finished with that, it was time to really trim out this panel to make it an A2 sized. With this type of panel, as long as you're filling up one whole side of your cardstock, you really don't need to print with crop marks, so I was very easily able to just trim this out to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 without any of those crop marks. Now for my sentiment, I am using the Thanks a Lot stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I chose to use this thanks word in the set because the lines of it match the lines of my digital stamp. So you really want to look at the lineage of your stamp you're using and choose either your font or your stamp to coordinate with the lineage in the digital stamp. I stamped that down with some black dye ink. I also used my Misty because I put so much work into the coloring. I didn't want to mess up the entire thing with a sentiment stamp. The final step is to put this card together. I simply put on some adhesive. I'm using double-sided tearaway adhesive onto the back of my panel, and then I will just mount this onto an A2 side folding card base that I made from Stampin' Up! Daffodil Delight cardstock. Now my panel I trimmed out just a little bit short on one side, and that is because I wanted that yellow to peek through just a little bit on the left hand side of the card base, and that just pulls the whole thing together. I also finished off the card base with just 3 moonshine sequins that I adhered with glossy accents, and I also put a layer of Wink of Stella over all of the roses and leaves as well. Here is a little bit of a closer look at that shine. It really doesn't pick it up in the video or do it justice as shiny as it is in real life. This technique really is so much fun and so easy to do once you get the hang of it, and it stretches out your digital stamps and just gives them a whole new look. I hope you all enjoyed this tutorial, and I really can't wait to see what fun and creative ways you guys use it to create a card of your own. Thanks so much for watching, and happy crafting!